Hi, my name is Tommy Rodriguez. I work for the R&D group, and what I'm going to be showing you today are the proper installation techniques for the new Woodland shingle. So what I have here is a sample of the Woodland shingle, and the first thing I want to explain is that the shingle is designed to have varying exposure sizes. So as you can see here, you have a long tooth, which is a 7.5-inch exposure, and you have a shorter tooth, which is 6.5-inch exposure. But the way that we're going to install this product is we're going to maintain a 6.5-inch exposure. Okay, so now what I'm going to start with is setting my chalk lines. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up the rake. But first I'm going to start off with the 17 inches, which is the width of the shingle. So from 17, I'm going to go to 23.5, 30, and 36.5. Okay, now that we have our chalk lines marked onto our deck, next what we have to do is put down our starter strip. But the starter strip needs to be put down in a very specific way. And again, it's because of the varying exposure size of the shingle. As you can see, when you butt your leading edge, your longer tab to the leading edge of the deck, you have this exposed area. So if you just put one starter strip, you run the risk of having an exposed butt joint going down to the deck if you just put one starter strip. So this product is going to require a dual starter strip. For this product, weather blocker is required. And as I explained earlier, we're going to need a dual starter strip. So the first layer of starter strip is going to be a single layer, which you need to break your weather blocker apart for. Now that we got our first layer of starter, what I want to explain to you and show you is why we don't use a single layer starter. So if you were just to use the normal single layer starter, as you can see, you would first see the self-seal through this staggered area of the shingle. Secondly, and more importantly, is when you butt together the two starters, you have a leak potential in this butt joint. So you need to cover that up with a second starter strip. So now that the first layer is down, for the second layer, we're going to use actually the full weather blocker. We're not going to break it apart. And we need to make sure when we install the weather blocker that we tell the contractors to install it with the self-seal upward. And that's so when you install the shingles, the self-seal isn't exposed through that staggered area as I showed you earlier. Another important piece is to make sure that the starter is staggered so that when you put in your next piece, it covers this butt joint. And now we're going to put up the starter along the rake edge. Now we're going to install our first Woodland shingle. And the first thing that you're going to notice when you look at these shingles is that at the end of the shingle, it's not a straight cut. There's a little notch here. And there's a reason why we put that notch there, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later. But what's important is when you install your first shingle, is that you align the exposed edge of the shingle to the edge of the rake. And of course, you're going to overhang an 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Another very important thing is that your leading edge, that you do not align the shorter exposed tab to the edge of the deck. You want to align the longer exposed tab to the edge of the deck, like so. Now we're going to install our second shingle. And if you go back to our first shingle, you can see that our first shingle aligns with the 17-inch chalk line. This second one, you're going to align to the 6.5, which was 23.5 inches up from the leading edge. and you're going to offset 5 inches. When you measure your 5-inch offset, you got to make sure you measure from your exposed area to exposed area. If you measure where this notch is, you'll see that you'll have a 4.5-inch offset. So you don't want to do that. 5 inches. And another thing is, make sure that your shingle is aligned to the chalk line, and that makes sure that you have a 6.5-inch exposure. Now, to explain what this notch is actually to make sure that you have this aligned correctly. If you've made a mistake and you've done this, you'll see that your notches won't be aligned. You can see here that I aligned the longer tooth to the top of the keyway, and you have an exposed nail. You're not aligning your chalk line, and you're not aligning your alignment marker. So this is no good. Okay, so now that we have our 5-inch offsets, now we're going to fill in. Now when you fill in, again, you want to make sure that your long tooth is aligned to the leading edge of your roof, and you want these notches to fit in here. You also want to make sure that your short tab is aligned to the top of the keyways. Now that I've shown you how to install the product properly, now I want to show you a mistake that could be made and how to identify it. If you recall, we put a full shingle, we offset 5 inches, we offsetted another 5 inches, that's 10, and we offsetted another 5 inches, which is 15. Now if a contractor was to offset another 5 inches, which is 20, now this portion will go down fine. There's no issues here. So now if they made that extra offset, what happens is you throw off the pattern. And when you go to put in your full shingle, what you're going to notice are keyway alignments. You don't want that. So you got to make sure that you have a full shingle, 5, 10, 15, and full. You can't do another 5, then full, or else you get alignment notches.